I always thought I knew my place in the family. Not the golden child. Not the favorite. Just the reliable one. The one who showed up on time, who paid the bills when my parents forgot, who quietly kept everything from falling apart while my younger brother Eric drifted through life like rules didn't apply to him. I'm 32 now. For the past 5 years, I've been covering half of my parents' mortgage. When the fridge broke, I paid. When property taxes were due, I wrote the check. When the gutters needed replacing, guess who climbed the ladder and bought the supplies? Meanwhile, Eric, 28, jobless, lazy, addicted to video games and excuses, contributed nothing. And I mean nothing. No rent, no groceries, not even gas money. But he always managed to have a new phone, a newer laptop, and cash for nights out. My parents had this blindness when it came to him. He's just finding himself. He's the creative one. Not everyone's meant to work a 9 to 5. You get the picture. I swallowed it for years. I told myself, fine. At least they appreciate me deep down. That illusion shattered the day I found their will. It wasn't dramatic. No family meeting. I was simply scanning some documents for my dad on their old printer. He had shoved a bunch of folders into my hands and asked me to just get it done, because technology wasn't his thing. So there I was, half bored, flipping through legal papers when one folder caught my eye. Estate plan, last will and testament. I hesitated. Normally, I don't snoop. But after years of keeping them afloat, I figured I had a right to know how they'd set things up. I opened it, and my stomach dropped. Everything, and I mean everything, was going to Eric. The house, the savings, the assets. The only mention of me was one bland sentence. We love both of our sons equally. Equally. Yeah, right. I sat there, shaking, the words blurring on the page. All those years of being their financial safety net, and their plan was to toss me aside like a footnote. I didn't even notice how long I'd been staring until Dad poked his head back into the room. Jake, what's taking so long? I held the will up in my hand, my voice disturbingly calm. So this is how it is. Everything to Eric? After everything I've done for you. His face went pale. For a split second, guilt flickered. Then he sighed, like I was a child throwing a tantrum. Jake, it's not what you think. Really? I snapped. Because it looks pretty damn clear. That was the moment I knew my life with this family would never be the same again. Dad froze in the doorway, clearly caught off guard that I'd actually read the will. 4 years, I'd been the quiet one, the fixer, the dependable background character in their story. He wasn't prepared for me to confront him. Jake, he started again, rubbing the back of his neck. You're blowing this out of proportion. It's complicated. Complicated. That was his word. Not an apology. Not an explanation. Just a lazy excuse. I slammed the folder shut and looked him dead in the eye. No, Dad. It's actually very simple. I've been paying your mortgage, your bills, fixing this house with my own 2 hands while Eric sits on his ass. And you still decided he's the only one who matters. He flinched but didn't fight back. Instead, he gave me this expectant look, like he thought I'd just sigh, drop it, and go back to scanning his documents like the obedient son I was supposed to be. But something in me snapped. Where's Mom? I demanded. In the kitchen, he muttered, shifting uneasily. Good, I said. She should hear this too. I marched down the hallway, will folder in hand, and found my mom by the sink, rinsing dishes. Mom, I said, my voice tight. Care to explain why I'm not even mentioned in your will? Her hands froze in the soapy water. She turned, her face guilty but not surprised. She already knew. "Oh, Jake," she sighed, using that gentle tone she always pulled out when she was about to justify something unforgivable. "Honey, you don't need the inheritance. You have a good job, you're independent. Eric, well, he struggles. We just want to make sure he's taken care of." I stared at her, stunned. "So let me get this straight. I've been taking care of you for years. But your grand plan is to reward Eric's laziness with everything, while I get nothing." Mom bit her lip, eyes softening like she was the victim here. "You don't understand, Jake. You've always been the strong one. Eric." I cut her off. "Eric is a parasite. And you're enabling him." The words came out sharp, louder than I intended, but I didn't care. For once, I wasn't swallowing it. Dad came in behind me, his voice low and tense. "Don't talk about your brother that way." I spun on him. "Then tell me why you expect me to keep bankrolling this family, while Eric gets rewarded for doing nothing." Neither of them answered. Silence. Just silence. And in that silence, I realized something crystal clear. They had already made their choice. I don't even remember leaving the kitchen. One moment I was staring at their guilty faces, the next I was in the hallway, clutching my jacket, adrenaline buzzing in my ears. Dad called after me. "Jake, don't overreact. This is family business." I turned, my voice low but shaking with anger. "Yeah. And you made it very clear where I stand in this family." I slammed the door behind me. For the first time in years, I didn't call. I didn't visit. I didn't check in to make sure the lights were still on or the fridge wasn't empty. At first, I expected some kind of olive branch. Maybe a phone call, maybe an apology, maybe just a hint that they'd reconsider. Instead, there was nothing. Silence. 2 weeks went by. Then, out of nowhere, my phone buzzed. A text from Dad. "The property taxes are due." That was it. No hello, no apology, no how are you. Just a bill, like I was still their personal ATM. I stared at the message, half laughing at how predictable it was. Did they really think they could stab me in the back and I'd just keep paying like nothing happened? I typed back. "I'm sure Eric will handle it, since the house is his and all." It took 5 minutes for Mom to call. I let it ring. Then another text came through. "Jake, please don't be like this. We need to talk." I waited an hour before replying. "There's nothing to talk about. You made your choice. Now live with it." That was the first crack in their perfect little plan. The calls started coming more often after that. Sometimes Dad. Sometimes Mom. Always the same script. Guilt, excuses, begging. And then, one evening, a new name lit up my phone. Eric. I hadn't spoken to him in weeks, and seeing his name on my screen made my stomach knot. Against my better judgment, I opened the message. "Dude, why are you being such a drama queen? It's not a big deal. Just help them out like you always do." I almost laughed. Not a big deal? My thumbs hovered over the keyboard before I finally typed back. "No. I think you've got it covered, since you're the favorite and all." His reply came fast. "Oh my God, are you seriously mad about the will? Grow up, man. It's just money. Just money." That was rich, coming from the guy who had never earned a dime in his life. I shot back. "Then you won't mind using some of that money to pay the mortgage, right?" This time, silence. That silence told me everything I needed to know. Eric wasn't capable. He wasn't responsible. And without me, my parents were about to realize just how fragile their golden child really was. And I'll admit, a small part of me enjoyed watching the cracks form. The silence didn't last long. By the end of the week, my phone was lighting up daily. Missed calls, voicemails, texts, each one a mix of desperation and manipulation. Mom, Jake, sweetheart, you're punishing all of us over a misunderstanding. Don't do this. Dad, your mother's stressed, we can't keep up like this. Just pay this month and we'll figure it out. Figure it out. Right. That was code for, you'll cave like always. But this time, I didn't. Then came the guilt trips. Mom, Jake, we're your parents. Family takes care of each other. We did so much for you growing up. How can you abandon us now? That one nearly made me throw my phone across the room. Abandon them. I had spent years keeping them afloat while they coddled Eric and rewarded his laziness. If anyone had been abandoned, it was me. I replied simply, "You abandoned me the moment you cut me out of the will. Let Eric take care of you." Her response came back within minutes. "You don't mean that. You've always been the responsible one." Exactly. That was the problem. Then Eric came back into the picture. This time, he called instead of texting. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Jake," he said, his voice dripping with smugness, "you're really making this harder than it needs to be. Mom and Dad are stressed, the bills are piling up. Just cover them, like you always do." I let out a bitter laugh. "You mean like I always did, while you sat around doing nothing?" "Dude, relax," he scoffed. "It's just money. You've got plenty. Why are you acting like such a selfish jerk about this?" Selfish. That word burned. For years, I'd sacrificed my own savings, my own time, my own sanity. And now I was selfish for saying no? You know what's selfish? I snapped. Living off everyone else while contributing nothing. You're a parasite, Eric. There was a pause, then he chuckled, low and ugly. You'll cave. You always do. That's why they love me more. I don't stress about this stuff. You'll pay eventually, because you can't stand to see them struggle. Click. He hung up before I could respond. I sat there, phone buzzing in my hand, his words echoing. You'll cave. You always do. Not this time. For the first time in my life, I was ready to let them feel the consequences of their choices. 2 more weeks passed. I didn't send a dime. At first, I thought maybe they'd figure something out, refinance, pick up extra hours, maybe even make Eric get a job. But instead, the calls and texts just got uglier. The first sign of real panic came from Dad. His voicemail was short, clipped, and furious. "Jake, the utility company is threatening to cut us off. You think this is funny? You're supposed to be part of this family. Call me back." The next day, another one. This time Mom, her voice trembling like she'd been crying. "Jake, please. We're behind on everything. The bank keeps calling. Eric's, he's trying, but it's not enough. We can't do this without you." I almost laughed at the irony. We can't do this without you. Exactly. That's what I'd been saying for years, and they hadn't listened. Then, one night, Eric showed up at my apartment. I opened the door to find him leaning against the hallway wall, arms crossed, smirking like he owned the place. "Nice setup," he said, glancing past me into my living room. "Guess all that money you're hoarding is working out for you." I clenched my jaw. "What do you want?" Eric. He pushed past me without waiting for an invitation, plopping onto my couch like it was his. What I want, he said, stretching out, is for you to stop being dramatic and pay the bills. Mom and Dad are losing it. You know they can't handle this stuff. They can't handle it, I shot back, because you never lifted a finger to help. This is on you. He rolled his eyes. Spare me the lecture. You've always loved playing the martyr. The guy who sacrifices everything so people can call him responsible. Well, congrats. You're still boring, still uptight, and still their backup plan. You'll pay eventually. You always do. That smug grin on his face made my blood boil. I stood over him, fists clenched. Not this time. He smirked wider, like he didn't believe me. Sure, Jake. Keep telling yourself that. We both know you don't have the guts to let them crash and burn. You'll cave. You always cave. Then he stood, gave me a mocking pat on the shoulder, and walked out. I stared at the door long after it shut. My whole body was buzzing with anger, but under it all was something new. Resolve. For the first time, I knew Eric was wrong. I wasn't going to cave. Let them feel it. The collapse didn't take long. By the end of the month, the cracks had turned into craters. My phone lit up with message after message, not just from my parents, but from unknown numbers. Debt collectors. Utility companies. Even the bank. Apparently, in a last-ditch effort, Dad had listed me as an emergency contact on some of their accounts. Which meant that when they stopped paying, I got the calls too. One afternoon, I answered out of sheer morbid curiosity. A stern voice launched into a rehearsed spiel. Hello, we're calling regarding the overdue balance on Mr. and Mrs. Taylor's account. Are you able to make a payment today? I almost laughed. No. But you should give Eric a call. He's the heir to everything, after all. The silence on the other end was delicious before the rep mumbled something about noted and hung up. Meanwhile, Mom's texts had shifted tone. No more gentle pleading. Now it was pure guilt and manipulation. Mom. Jake, we raised you better than this. Family doesn't turn their back in hard times. Me. Family doesn't cut their son out of the will after he paid their bills for years. Mom. You're cruel. Eric would never do this to us. I stared at that one for a long time before replying. You're right. Eric would never do this. Because Eric has never done anything for you. Dad's approach was different. His messages were shorter, angrier. Dad. You've made your point. Stop being childish. Dad. You're destroying this family. Dad. If the bank takes the house, it'll be your fault. That last one nearly made me throw my phone across the room. My fault. After years of carrying them, they were seriously trying to pin the blame on me for refusing to carry them anymore. And then there was Eric. He never begged. He never admitted they were drowning. Instead, he doubled down on arrogance. Eric. Thanks for the new TV, bro. Parents had to sell some stuff since you're being selfish. Looks great in the living room. Eric. By the way, if the bank takes the house, you're not crashing with me. Don't think I'll bail you out. His taunts didn't sting the way he thought they would. If anything, they fueled me. Every smug word was proof that I was doing the right thing. For the first time in decades, they were forced to face reality. And reality was hitting hard. It happened on a Thursday night. I was cooking dinner when my phone buzzed. I almost ignored it. Another guilt trip, I thought. But this time, it wasn't a text. It was a FaceTime call from Eric. I swiped to answer, and his face filled the screen. Except this wasn't the smug, smirking brother I was used to. His hair was a mess, his eyes bloodshot, and he was pacing a dimly lit room I recognized as my parents' living room. "Jake!" he barked, his voice hoarse. "This is insane. You have to fix this. They're losing everything. The bank's coming after them, the lights almost got shut off, and Mom's a wreck. You can't just sit there and do nothing." I stared at him, calm in a way I hadn't felt in years. "Why not? This is exactly what you wanted. Everything left to you. Time to step up." His face twisted. "Don't give me that crap. You know I can't handle this. I don't have your stupid job or your boring savings. I can't." He trailed off, then slammed his fist against the wall behind him. "I can't do this, all right. I'm not you." For a moment, the mask slipped completely. All the arrogance, the smug superiority, gone. What was left was a scared little boy who had been coddled too long to survive in the real world. But then, just as quickly, the anger returned. His voice rose, wild and desperate. "You think you're better than me? You think just because you pay some bills, you're the hero? Guess what, Jake? Mom and Dad don't love you the way they love me. They never will. That's why I get everything, and you get nothing." The words should have hurt. Once upon a time, they would have gutted me. But now, hearing them screamed at me across a flickering phone screen, they only made me feel free. "Maybe you're right," I said quietly. "Maybe they don't love me the way they love you. But at least I can stand on my own 2 feet. At least I don't need to drain them dry just to survive another week." His face went red, veins bulging at his neck. He screamed something incoherent, then hurled the phone across the room. The call cut out. I stood there in my kitchen, staring at my own reflection in the black screen, and for the first time in years, I felt a strange kind of peace. Eric had finally admitted the truth. He couldn't do it without me. And I had finally realized I didn't need any of them. That night, after Eric's meltdown, I sat in silence for a long time. The echoes of his screaming still rattled in my head, but under all the chaos, one thought kept repeating. They've taken everything from me. And I've given them everything in return. Enough. I opened my laptop, pulled up a folder of documents I'd been quietly keeping over the years. Bank transfers, receipts, checks I'd written for the mortgage, repair invoices I'd covered. Line after line, proof after proof, showing how much of my parents' stability had been built on my shoulders. 4 years, I'd saved it without knowing why. Maybe some part of me always knew this day would come. And that's when it hit me. I didn't have to sit back and watch them sink. I didn't have to argue with Eric's tantrums or endure my parents' guilt trips. I had leverage. Real leverage. One phone call could change everything. The next morning, I took a deep breath and dialed a number I'd never thought I'd use, our family lawyer. "Mr. Harlow's office," a secretary answered. "Yes," I said, my voice steady. "This is Jake Taylor. I need to schedule a meeting regarding my parents' estate plan. Specifically, their will." There was a pause. Then she replied politely, "Of course. Mr. Harlow can see you tomorrow morning." Perfect. That evening, I ignored every call from Mom and Dad. Ignored Eric's texts, which had shifted from insults to outright begging. "Eric. Bro, listen. I said some stuff earlier I didn't mean. We're family, okay? Let's just work this out." Me. Scene, no reply. Eric. "Jake, seriously. They're falling apart here. You win, all right? Just help them." Again, no reply. For the first time, I held the power. And I wasn't about to waste it. The next morning, I walked into Mr. Harlow's office, the folder of receipts tucked neatly under my arm. He looked up from his desk, surprised to see me alone. "Jake, where are your parents?" "They don't know I'm here," I said flatly. "And that's the point. I found out I've been cut out of the will, after years of supporting them financially. I want to know what my options are." He adjusted his glasses, gesturing for me to sit. "Well, if you've been financially contributing to their property and maintenance, that could constitute a legal claim, especially if there's documentation." I slid the folder across the desk. He opened it, scanning the contents. His brows rose higher with each page. Finally, he looked at me. "Jake, you may have more than a claim. You may have grounds to contest the will entirely." I leaned back in the chair, a slow, grim smile spreading across my face. Exactly what I wanted to hear. Mr. Harlow didn't waste time. Within a week, he drafted the paperwork. All it took was one signature from me, and suddenly my parents' airtight plan wasn't so airtight anymore. The call came 2 days later. This time, it wasn't from Mom. Not from Dad. Not even from Eric. It was from Mr. Harlow himself. "Jake," he said, calm and professional, "I've informed your parents of your decision to contest the will. They didn't take it well." I almost laughed. "I can imagine. They've requested a meeting. Do you want me to arrange one here at my office?" I thought about it. About the years of swallowing my pride, paying their bills, being dismissed like some background character while Eric got everything. And now, they were finally being forced to face me as an equal. "Yes," I said firmly. "Set it up." The meeting was surreal. I walked into the office to find Mom pale, Dad fuming, and Eric sitting back in his chair with that same smug expression, though I noticed the twitch in his jaw, the nervous tap of his foot. Mr. Harlow welcomed us and got straight to business. "Your son has presented ample documentation of financial support over the years. The court would view this as a strong claim of contribution. If this proceeds, the will could be deemed invalid." Dad's face turned crimson. "This is ridiculous. He's our son. Family doesn't sue family." I leaned forward, my voice calm, controlled. Family doesn't cut out the child who kept them afloat for years. Family doesn't reward the one who gave nothing. Mom's eyes filled with tears. "Jake, please. We only wanted to make sure Eric was secure. You're so strong. You've always managed." I stared at her, my jaw tight. "And you never stopped to think that maybe I was tired of managing everything alone." Eric finally spoke up, his voice sharper than usual. "This is all because you're jealous, isn't it? You couldn't stand that they love me more. You think waving around some receipts makes you special? You're pathetic." I turned to him slowly, locking eyes. "You know what's pathetic, Eric? Being nearly 30 and still relying on Mommy and Daddy to bail you out. If they want to hand you everything, fine. But they'll lose the house before I let you inherit the life I paid for." The room went silent. Even Dad had no comeback. Mr. Harlow cleared his throat. "I suggest you reconsider your estate plan. Otherwise, Jake has every legal right to proceed." For the first time, I watched my parents squirm. They weren't in control anymore. And I realized something. Whether or not I got a dime, I'd already won. The silence in that office stretched like a taut wire. For the first time in my life, my parents weren't holding all the cards. I was. Dad broke first. His voice was low, bitter. So what, Jake? You want half the estate? Is that it? Money? I shook my head. No. What I wanted was respect. Recognition for everything I've done. But you made your choice the moment you wrote me out. This isn't about greed. This is about consequences. Mom reached for my hand across the table, but I pulled back. Jake, please, we'll fix it. We'll change the will. You don't have to go through with this. I studied her face, the same face that had looked me in the eye weeks ago and told me Eric needed it more. Now, suddenly, I mattered again. But only because I had leverage. I'll let Mr. Harlow draft the new plan, I said coldly. 50-50. Or I move forward with the challenge. And if I win, I'll make sure Eric gets nothing. Eric exploded, slamming his fists on the table. You can't do this. That's my house, my inheritance. You don't deserve any of it. I turned to him, calm and steady. I deserved it every time I paid the mortgage you ignored. Every time I covered their bills while you sat on your ass. If it weren't for me, there wouldn't even be a house left for you to whine about. He went red, sputtering with rage, but for once, Mom and Dad didn't rush to defend him. They sat in silence, eyes downcast, finally realizing the truth they'd refused to see for years. By the end of the week, the papers were redrawn. 50-50 split. My name back where it belonged. Did it fix the years of resentment? No. Did it erase the hurt of being treated like the disposable child? Definitely not. But it gave me closure. Eric still sends me bitter texts from time to time. He'll never forgive me for stealing what was his. But here's the thing. I didn't steal anything. I simply claimed what was already mine. As for my parents, the relationship is colder now. Polite. Distant. They know they can't lean on me anymore, and I think that terrifies them. But for once, I don't feel guilty. Because the truth is, one phone call changed everything. And it taught me something I should have realized a long time ago. Sometimes, the only way to break free from a toxic family is to stop playing the role they wrote for you.